Yeah, here we go. Om. 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 Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamotim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadrusham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Shruti Smruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Brahmara, before the questions, I have some input to give you. Yesterday we were reading from the PDF that Kunti deposited Karna in the Ganga. This could be because of one of two reasons that Ganga was mentioned. In normal parlance, Ganga means water. Generally, in our vernacular, Ganga means water. Put it in the Ganga like that. Okay, put it in water. Secondly, this Gita entire home study course is a compendium based on Swami Dayananda's coverage of the text in the classes meant for the brahmacharis. So at the time of transcription, one of the brahmacharis may have mentioned, instead of water, Ganga. Okay, both of these are possible. Yeah, the questions now.
Yesterday, there was in the Manana class, there was a discussion of about how, sorry, let's increase my volume a bit.
Discussion about?
Percy ji was mentioning an incident when his son was kind of had an accident and he was in a lot of pain, and Percy ji was praying. We were looking at the concept of prayer there. So he was praying to seek some alleviation of pain for his son. Now, does that put him as an arti? Number one. Second, since if he's a mumukshu, how does the pain, I mean, how does the prayer change, the attitude of the prayer change, or the intention of the prayer? How does it change with respect to arti, adhati, mumukshu? Because if we're all sadhaks, we're on the path of moksha. Do we keep changing between being praying as an arti, artharti, mumukshu, or should we just keep our compass on the mumukshu?
Actually, okay, good questions. Actually, it does not come under the arti category at all. Arti is one who is frightened of a situation and he seeks Bhagavan's help to bail him out of that situation. Now, this Mr. Percy is not frightened at all. Out of compassion, he has been praying for relieving the pain of somebody else. So certainly it is not arti, it is ardharthi. Ardharthi, okay? It is neither mumukshu, nor jignasu, certainly not jnani. It is ardharthi. Ardha, he wants some result, some beneficial result, okay? But it is, though he is not praying for himself, he will be unhappy if the pain of that somebody is not relieved soon enough. So that way he is an ardharthi. He is certainly not an arti.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah.
So given that situation, the same situation, how would a mumukshu's prayer be? Or does a mumukshu pray at all? If someone very near to you is like in a situation like that.
Mumukshu may say, hey Bhagavan, you are seeing this person suffering, okay? This person suffering, and you are capable of removing the sufferings of everybody. Why don't you please do something about it? It's a kind of a command come prayer. It is, Mumukshu knows the ways and means of Bhagavan, whereas the Arti and Ardharthi, they do not know. They only know that there is some higher power who will come to their aid in case of need. Mumukshu is slightly different. Though in these 4 bhaktas, Mumukshu is not mentioned. Artho jignasu radhadi jnani cha bharatarshava. That Mumukshu, moksho me bhuyat iti ichuhu mumukshuhu. He may come under the category of jignasu perhaps.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If he is Jivan Mukta,
Hariom?
if he is Jivan Mukta,
No, not Jivan Muktaha yet.
no,
Jivan
if he is, then he should not pray for.
Jivan Mukta does not pray for any particular result. He prays all right. He prays recognizing the glories of Bhagavan. And the prayer will be kind of a thanksgiving. Hey Bhagavan, you have rendered me a jnani. Thank you so much. That kind of a prayer. He does not desire anything. If he desires anything, he is not a jnani at all.
But suppose he is a Jnani, he has to eat food, he is a food, no, Jivan Mukta, he needs food, he needs many things if he is in a body. That is not a desire.
No, he has no body identification at all.
Yeah, but he feels hungry.
Pardon?
He feels hungry, you know.
He feels hungry. Whenever he feels hungry, he recognizes his body is feeling hungry. He does not feel hungry. He recognizes that body is feeling hungry. Like even the domesticated dog, when the time of lunch or dinner arrives for the dog, and you were unmindful of that, the dog will do work. With some kind of a tune, it will bark. The tune is known to you that this bark is requiring the food. It is time for food. So the body feeling hungry, the jnani recognizes as though like the bark of the dog and gives it whatever food that is readily available. He does not feel hungry, kind of. Otherwise, if he feels hungry, how do you explain this verse in the 5th chapter? Naiva kinchit karomi iti yukto manyeta tattvavit pashyan shrunvan sprushan jigran, etc. Aham na kinchit karomi iti tattvavitu manyeta. Aham na kinchit karomi. I am not doing anything. I am neither feeling hungry nor feeling angry. It is the Vishesha of the body. Yeah, that is the attribute of the body, let it have. That is how a jnani always thinks. Otherwise, he is no jnani at all.
It is like the
Okay.
Gauna Pratyaya, right?
That he feeling hungry is a Gauna Pratyaya, yes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Correct. Very right. Very good. Forward march.
Any other questions anyone has? Persiji, on your behalf, I mean, I wanted a little clarification because that's why I posed the question. And yeah.
Thank you. I
Not
got
the
the answer. Yeah, thanks, Nanaji.
Very, very good questions. Thank you so much. My clarity of understanding is improving day by day because of your questions. I'm thankful to all of you. Okay, go to the correct para.
Yeah. Bella, you wanted to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, Nanaji, Hariom. I just needed guidance. When we are chanting Vishnu Sahasranam or any other stotram, should we chant loudly or Bhagavad Gita as well? Bhagavad Gita, I understand we chant loudly only. Vishnu Sahasranam, Lalita Sahasranam, should we chant Mansik Jap or how? Kindly guide?
Chanting aloud is better. Because when you are chanting aloud, the chances are that your mind is with you on what you are chanting. When you are chanting aloud, because you are using 2-3 implements of yours. One is the eye you are using. One is the walk you are using. Another is the mind you are using. All three are kind of in unison. That is a great achievement in itself. So better to chant aloud and have the mind be with you in what you are chanting, studying, and understanding. It is better.
Okay. Dhanyavad, Nanaji.
Certainly, in the initial years, it is certainly better to chant it aloud. After you have progressed to a great extent, then you will fail to ask this question. You will yourself realize what is better for you to do, and you will do accordingly.
Nanaji, can I ask you one question?
Yes, please.
On the same thing. Is there any restriction for women to chant this Vishnu Sahasranamam?
No, I did not follow what you said.
Is there any restriction for women to chant the Vishnu Sahasranamam? Like
no prescription. No prescription.
Like restriction.
With the attitude, it is going to be a blessing.
Okay.
You chant with the attitude that you are recognizing the glories of Bhagavan. That all the Sahasranamas are indeed your acknowledgement of the glories of Bhagavan.
Right.
Yeah. I am your Bhakta and I acknowledge your glories. Here is my prayer in the form of your own names chanting. Please accept. That's all. That is the bhavana. It is the bhavana that matters.
Okay. Because in some Upanyasan, I'm not sure what to believe, but that one, I normally chant the whole thing. It said not to say nyasa, and then for women, Stiris cannot say the nyasa. And
No. I'm not following what you said. What is that? Somebody said that not to say vyasa?
Nyasa.
Niyasa, that Anushtu Chandagar, that paragraph that comes, that part also not say like Om because it's Pranava Mantram or something like that, but we say Om all the time. So I'm wondering if there's something if the Shastra says anything like that. I don't know about that.
No. Important thing is to have the blissful attitude of your having recognized the glories of Bhagavan. That is important. Very,
Right.
very important. I'll tell you, now that you have asked this question, in the Mahabharata per se, in the Mahabharata,
right,
the Vishnu Sahasranam is there in the Anushasanika Parva.
right.
You know what it starts with? What all we are used to starts with Shuklambaradaram Vishnum Sheshuvarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavanam Jhaye Sarva Vignopashantaye. And Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram. In the original Mahabharata, none of these things were there. The Vishnu Sahasranamam in the Anushasanika Parva starts with
Vishwas.
Vaishakaya Navamacha. Shrutva Dharmanaseshena Pavanani cha Sarvashaha Yudhishthira Shantanavam Punareva Abhibhashata.
Oh,
And it ends with what, you know? It ends with, just before Arjuna asked a question. Arjuna asked what?
I forgot. You know,
If you are having
Kimekam Daivatam Loke, right?
Yeah.
you would know what it is. What is the question?
I think there is
Arjuna said, Padma Patra Vishalaksha Padmanabha Surottama.
Right.
Bhaktanam Anuraktanam Trata Bhava Janardana. Prior to that, what was there in the Vishnu Sahasranamam?
Nadeyanti
Just
Prabhava.
prior to that, Vishveshwarmajam Devam Jagata Prabhumavyayam Bhajanti Ye Pushkaraksham Nate Yanti Parabhavam. Vishnu Sahasranamam in the Mahabharata closes with this sloka. Vishveshwaramajam Devam Jagata Prabhumavyayam Bhajanti Ye Pushkaraksham Nate Yanti
the voice
Parabhavam.
is breaking, Nanaji.
No. This, what I'm saying is, this ends with that. It begins with Vaishampayana Vavacha, ends just before this Arjuna Vavacha. Later on, for enabling us to have a meaningful chanting of the Vishnu Sahasranamam, some meaningful Pandits have introduced the first few paras and the last few paras.
Okay.
Like Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram, it is better the chanter should know how this Mahabharata has come about, who is the author of that, and what are his antecedents, and who is Vyasa, who is his father, who is his grandfather, that kind of a thing. Vyasam Vasishtanaptaram, he is the great grandson of Vasishta. Naptaram is that great grandson. Shishtanaptaram, Shakti Pautram, for Shakti Mahamuni, he is the grandson. Parasharatmajam, he is the descendant directly from Rishi Parashara. Parasharatmajam Vande, and who is his son? Shukatatam Taponidhim. It is for us to recognize the lineage of Mahatmas like that. It is given like that. And certainly the Vishnu Sahasranama, after this Vishveshwaramajam Devam Jagata Prabhum Avyayam, that Arjuna Vamacha, etc., in the Mahabharata, they are not there. They are introduced. While introducing, to my mind, the Pandits have perhaps in their anxiety to give some additional inputs towards the end, they have forgotten one or two important things. Like people who are used to chanting Vishnu Sahasranamam would appreciate what I am saying, because after that Sanjaya Vacha, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, etc., Bhagavan Vacha, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, then he winds up saying Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Sambhavami yuge yuge. And these two verses are picked up, one from the 9th chapter, Ananyas Chintayanto Mam, from the 9th chapter of the Gita, and Paritranaya sadhunam from the 4th chapter of the Gita. So the Pandits that be who introduced these in the Vishnu Sahasranamam, they have picked up from the Bhagavad Gita and introduced. Good, very good. These days, the next verse, Artha Vishanna Shidhilascha Bhita. Who said this? Who said this?
Bhagavan said that.
Bhagavan could not have
Said that.
It means is, listen. Artha, Vishanna. Artha is the one who is frightened. Vishanna, one who is sorrowful. Shidhilascha, one he is very down, absolutely down. Bhitaha, highly frightened. Ghoreshu cha vyadhishu samana, and who is afflicted with incurable diseases. Sanketya Narayana Shraddhamatram Vimukta Dukkha Sukhino Bhavanti. Sanketya, if they praise Narayana Shraddhamatram, Narayana, if they say that, Vimukta Dukkha, from all their sorrows, they become Sukhino Bhavanti. And supposing Bhagavan has said this Artha Vishanai, Bhagavan indeed has said that, the following verse, Kayena Vacha Manasendriyirva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yajyat. Karomi Yajyat. Bhagavan is saying Karomi Yajyat. Karomi Yajyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayanaya iti Samarpayami. And Bhagavan is saying he's surrendering all this to Narayana, is it? What kind of a Bhagavan is that?
No. That's
So what I'm saying is, the Pandits that be, they missed a couple of vital points. This took my mind. This Vishanna Siddhilasya. Vishnu Sahasranamam is what? It is a dialogue between Bhishma and Yudhishthira, is it not?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I would say, Shri Bhishma Vacha, Artha Vishanna Siddhilasya Bhita, Ghoreshu cha Vyadhishu Vartamanaha. Sankirtya Narayana Shabdamatram Vimukta Dukkha Sukhino Bhavanti. It is quite apt if Bhishma had said that. And the following sloka, Kayena Vacha Manasendriyerva Buddhyatmana Va Prakrite Swabhavat Karomi Yajyat. Bhishma is saying, whatever I do, whatever I have told you, Yudhishthira, Karomi Yajyat Sakalam Parasmaihi Narayanayeti Samarpayami. I am giving all this to Narayana, Samarpayami. If Bhishma had said that, it is quite apt. If Vaishampayana has said that, it may be quite apt, but syntax-wise it does not match. Because Vaishampayana Uvacha, Shrutva Dharmana Seshena, etc. Yudhishthira has asked Bhishma Acharya. Bhishma went on explaining, etc. So these are certain things in our texts which have been missed out by very well-meaning people who you can't find fault with them. It is missed out. It's okay. But you, the chanter, if you recognize that, you will be benefited. If you think it is Narayana who has said that Artha Vishanna, it looks very funny. Narayana, offering to Narayana. And who are these two Narayanas?
Yeah.
That question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. So thank you so much, Nananji.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Can we get back to the text, madam?
Yeah, we'll get back to the text. But regarding the chanting, what Swamiji had mentioned earlier was with respect to the Japa Yajna, maybe it was to do with mantra, not with the shlokas in Vishnu Sahasranamam and Gita. He said the highest form and the better way to chant it is not oral or physical or allowed. Do it mentally, then your mind will be on that. Otherwise, sometimes you're just turning the rosary and you're just saying it, but your mind can go here and there. But when you're chanting it mentally, that way your mind will be with the.
But
with
what
the
you said is true, but that is limited to the mantra japa.
mantra japa, right? That's why I wanted a
To the mantra
clarification.
japa, okay?
Right.
And mantra japa, when you are doing, you have the accomplice called the mala. Mala is your accomplice, and which will, whenever the mind goes astray, away from the subject matter, which is the mantra, the mala will alert you. Okay? That is okay. But this is different. This
Correct.
is
This is different.
this is stotra.
Got it.
Same thing with Dr. Mara asked Lalita Sahasranamam, anything, any chanting. It, to my mind, especially people like us who are trying to be better than ourselves, who are trying to be better sadhakas, okay? We are jignasus and mumukshus. We better chant aloud. So that it is that way, like I said, your eye, your walk, your mind, all are in unison when you are chanting aloud. And when that happens, chances are the mind will simply go away from the subject matter. Is difficult for the mind.
Right.
Because the mind will have to help the walk to say what the walk says. Mind will have to recognize what was seen by the eye and pass it on to the walk. So it is kind of with you all the time. That's how I take it.
Okay.
Onward march.
So the Pandavas return. I think we should start.
Yeah. Good questions. You are taking rest, my dear. The Pandavas returned. The Pandavas came back to claim the kingdom, but Duryodhana refused to return the kingdom to them. No amount of pleading could convince him to alter his stand. Bhishma, along with other highly respected people, advised Duryodhana to return the kingdom, but he refused. Duryodhana had enjoyed absolute power for 13 years. Power corrupts, and absolute power, absolutely. Duryodhana was now so corrupt that he would not give the Pandavas so much as a square inch of the kingdom. The Pandavas, for their part, were willing to accept anything because they wanted to avoid war. Therefore, they turned to Krishna for help. Bhima, in spite of his vow to avenge Draupadi by destroying his cousins, pleaded with Krishna to somehow avoid the war. They all told Krishna, it will be the end of the entire family. We do not want this. We are ready to take anything, but let dharma prevail. Otherwise, it is adharma. It is not proper. We are supposed to protect dharma. Now we have to fight, and we do not want to fight. Please make it possible for us to avoid the war. But even Krishna's eloquence, pleading power, and negotiating acumen were of no avail. I tell you, in the Udyoga Parva, how beautifully Bhagavan Krishna talks in the Kaurava Sabha in Hastinapura. Beautiful, wonderful, really. Like a very dignified ambassador, he presents the case of the Pandavas and requests Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, and the powers that be that decide the fate of Hastinapura to go in the direction of peace with the Pandavas. Beautiful dialogues by Krishna. I suggest you please make an effort to read the Mahabharata. Duryodhana was too hard a nut to crack. His attitude towards his cousin was based on the fact that they were princes, members of the ruling class. They had valor and were well armed with weapons. Let them fight, he said, and take the kingdom as they should. I am not going to give it back to them. I have declared war. If they want the kingdom, they should meet me in the battlefield in Kurukshetra and take it. This Kurukshetra has got the name from King Kuru. King Kuru, who was the ancestor of these two clans, the Dhartarashtras and Pandavas, Both of them are Kauravas. Okay? Kauravas means those belonging to the Kuru clan. This Kuru was the son of one king, Kuru's father. His name was, I know the name, but somehow it's not clicking. And his mother is the daughter of Vivaswan. Tapana. Her name is Tapana. Tapana. And Tapana and that other person's name, somehow it's ringing in my mind. Its mind is not helping the walk. And this Kuru has done wonderful deeds. He was a highly religious, noble person, and he was a very great king. Very well, he ruled the kingdom, and he has done a lot of yajnas and yagas, and that is why the kshetra is called Kurukshetra, and it's also acknowledged as Dharma Kshetra. Otherwise, let them go back to the forest. I will not disturb them here. In his role as a mediator, Krishna then asked Duryodhana for some kind of compromise. He said, give them one state with 5 districts. Give them a district with 5 counties. Give them a county with 5 villages. Give them a village with 5 houses. Give them a house with 5 rooms. Duryodhana refused to give even one needle point of land to the Pandavas. The issue, therefore, was no longer the kingdom, but a matter of dharma, a question of right and wrong. The Pandavas were the lawful rulers, even though Duryodhana ruled the kingdom de facto. The Pandavas were the rightful rulers in exile, and Duryodhana was the usurper who continued to occupy the throne. To allow a usurper to rule the kingdom is to allow injustice, adharma, to go unchecked. If the king himself is following adharma, what will happen to the kingdom? Just as a fence put around a growing crop to keep out stray animals should not creep into the field and destroy the crop, so too a ruler should not destroy dharma. Rulers, kings are all fence-like protectors. If they begin to follow adharma, the kingdom will not be fit to be lived in. There is a daily prayer that says, Nyayena margena mahim mahishaha paripalayantam. Let all the rulers of the world rule their kingdoms following the path of justice. This is said because the word ruler implies justice. It may be your own son or a cousin by marriage who has done wrong. Nevertheless, the person must be given the punishment that the crime deserves. This is the duty of a ruler. The Pandavas were supposed to protect dharma, law and order, and Duryodhana had gone against it in every way. Dharma and justice had to be reinstated. Therefore, the Pandavas could not avoid this war, even though they had explored all possible avenues for avoiding the war, because Duryodhana would not return the kingdom. Lord Krishna had no option but to hand over the challenging gloves to Dharmaputra, saying, I'm sorry, I could not even a square inch of land from Duryodhana could not even get. I tried everything. The situation is impossible. Here are the gloves. You would better fight. There is no other way. War is declared. It was with great reluctance that Dharmaputra accepted that need to fight. In the meantime, both parties had begun gathering whatever support they could. Since Duryodhana was a ruler, he was able to sway people to his side by bribing those who were willing to compromise. Such people are prepared to ignore what is right and wrong when it suits their purpose. Thus, using his money, power, land, and position, Duryodhana gathered a large number of people, kingdoms, armies, and supplies, everything required to wage a war. Neighboring kingdoms felt that if they did not give Duryodhana their support, they would have to face the consequences. Duryodhana was the emperor, whereas they were the lesser kings and chieftains. Because they could also have elected to join the Pandavas, Duryodhana sent his brothers and special messengers to elicit their support. They agreed to join his ranks primarily out of fear. Therefore, the number of people who refused to give him their support because they lived according to Dharma was very few. There are always a few people in any society who live their lives according to Dharma. We read in a Tamil verse that it is because of these people that the rains come, the winds blow, and the flowing water still stands its own level, meaning that there is some order in the society. Here too, there were a few people who were not threatened by Duryodhana, still less tempted by his officers because of their commitment to Dharma. Unbribable and virtuous, these people cast their lot with the Pandavas. The Dharma of war. War was declared openly. No stealth was involved because in those days, even war was controlled by Dharma. There was no such thing as a preemptive strike, where while one side was preparing for war, the other side went in and took them away by surprise. Nor could a man without a weapon be struck. If he was in a chariot, the other person also had to be in a chariot before any fighting could occur. Thus, there were certain rules that had to be followed, and that is how the battle between the Pandavas and Duryodhana was fought, at least for the first 10 days, as long as Bhishmacharya was up and about. A time was declared, and the fighting did not begin until then. The place was also arranged. Kurukshetra, located just above Delhi. This is on the way to Chandigarh. From Delhi to Chandigarh, when you go, there is a railway station called Kurukshetra. That is the place. To my mind, to the right of that Kurukshetra, towards Uttarakhand, was perhaps the Hastinapura. And slightly farther away to even more right was Indraprastha. Why I am saying this is, during the Bhishmacharya's Ampashaya, that is after he has fallen, he lived for 58 days. That is, after the 10th day, 8 other days the war ensued. 58 days means after the war ended, he lived for 50 more days. And all those days, most of all those days, Yudhishthira, along with Bhagavan Krishna, all the Pandavas, even Dhritarashtra and Vidura, all these people used to go every day to Kurukshetra, where Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, and they used to surround him and listen to his Veda Vakyas. That is how the Shanti Parva and Anushasanika Parva, these two mighty portions of the Mahabharata, these two together will be more than a quarter of Mahabharata. And they used to go every day and come back in the evening. So if it is any distant than, say, more than 1 hour travel, it will be very, very difficult. They will be using up the available daytime. That is how Delhi is not Hastinapura at all, certainly not. Thus, there were certain rules that had to be followed, and that is how the battle between the Pandavas and Duryodhana was fought. A time was declared, and the fighting did not begin until then. The place was also arranged. Kurukshetra, located just above Delhi. Just above Delhi means when you go by the Shatabdi Express, you will take something like maybe 1.5 hours to go to Kurukshetra. Okay? As the Gita opens, the forces of Duryodhana and those of Dharmaputra had assembled. Duryodhana's commander-in-chief was the invincible Bhishma, the grand old man of the Kuru family. Even though Bhishma was a man of dharma, he felt obliged to be on Duryodhana's side because he had promised his father that he would always stand by the one who ruled Hastinapura. That was Bhishma's fault. He did not stand by the throne of Hastinapura. He was standing by whoever sits on that Hastinapura throne. That is how. Otherwise, this war would not have happened. Although Drona had taught archery to both Dhritarashtra's and Pandavas, his heart was with the Pandavas. But Duryodhana had made him feel so obliged that Drona agreed to join his ranks. And also, Drona was extremely fond of his son, Ashwathama. In fact, one could say Ashwathama was his weakness, and Ashwathama was Duryodhana's friend. This was another reason for Drona to stay on with the Duryodhanas. Krupacharya was also obliged to stay with Duryodhana. And Krupacharya was the direct brother-in-law of Dronacharya. Krupacharya's sister is Krupi. And Krupi was the wife of Dronacharya. Karna, of course, was Duryodhana's friend and very loyal to him. Because of his exceptional... Yeah, something happened?
No, sorry.
Some noise I hear? Okay. Because of his exceptional expertise in archery, Karna was Duryodhana's answer to Arjuna. He had been recognized as a great archer early on, and Duryodhana had deliberately cultivated him, and had given him a small kingdom, that Angaraja. This gesture was enough to commit Karna to Duryodhana's side forever. Thus, everyone who was in some way obliged to Duryodhana had come to the battlefield to fight for this cause. Incidentally, Karna did not fight the war for the first 10 days because Bhishmacharya, as the commander-in-chief, was asked by Duryodhana to name his great exceptional fighters. And in so doing, Bhishmacharya said he is so-and-so, Dronacharya is so-and-so, Ashwathama is so-and-so, Duryodhana is so-and-so. And when it came to Karna, he said, Karna I equate as an Ardharatha. Ardharatha. A Radha means the one who fights on a chariot. A chap who fights on a chariot will fight another chap on a chariot. That is Rathi. Ardharathi means the one who is in the chariot may not be able to be an answer to another charioteer. May not be. Ardharathi. He is half an Ardharathi. Then Karna gets annoyed. He says, you have been very partial. You are treating me so very insultingly. I will not fight as long as you are alive. I will not fight as long as you fight. And so he does not fight the first 10 days at all. And Bhagavan Krishna very jokingly asks Karna, though he has decided not to fight the first 10 days, he appears on the battlefield on the first day itself. Then Bhagavan Krishna asks him jocularly, hey, you decided not to fight on the side of Duryodhana for as long as Bhishmacharya is fighting. But why don't you till then fight on the side of the Pandavas? Bhagavan Krishna very jocularly asked him, and that's how it is. They were all very well equipped with weaponry, skills, and a thorough knowledge of warfare. Just as armies now have tanks, there were chariots, cavalries, regiments with camels as the mount, regiments with elephants as a mount, and infantries. With all this support, Duryodhana was ready and happy. Pandavas were also ready, and the war was about to begin. All eyes were upon Arjuna because he was the one everyone wanted to see in action. Even the gods wanted to see him, and the balconies were full. To add to the color, Krishna was sitting right in front of Arjuna as his charioteer. Krishna was the added attraction. Arjuna was already the apple of everyone's eye. But to add to that, Krishna was also there. Therefore, all eyes were upon Arjuna, whose chariot was driven by none other than Krishna, the Lord Bhagavan, the Lord himself. Not only that, this Arjuna's chariot has another distinction. This was drawn by horses which are all white. Tata shvetair hayair yuktaihi mahati chandane stito madhava pandavaschaiva divyo shankavo pradadmatuhu. That is what we picked up in the first chapter. Shvetaihi hayaihi yuktaihi. They are yoked to the white horses were yoked to the chariot, and the chariot was given to Arjuna by who? By the fire god. The fire god has given to Arjuna not only this Mahati Chandane, this great, wondrous, divine chariot, he also gave the fire god Arjuna the Gandiva and 2 inexhaustible quivers. Quivers are those where you stock your arrows and you keep on taking arrow after arrow and they will keep on getting replenished. The quiver will get replenished with arrows when it is about to be emptied. That was the blessing by the fire god to Arjuna during the Khandava Dahana. Okay, that's much before the war. The incident involving, where is that? Yeah. This then was a situation as the Gita was about to begin. Arjuna had a long account to settle with his cousins. From childhood onwards, there were so many occasions when he would have got even with Duryodhana, but his mother would not allow it, and nor would his older brother, Yudhishthira. The incident involving Draupadi was the final insult. He therefore wanted to teach all the Dhartarashtras a lesson. All the weapons he had been stockpiling for this day were going to have a chance to express themselves. These were not simple arrows. They were a different type of weaponry. They were all missiles. One came emitting fire like a napalm bomb. Another one had the ability to neutralize it by dousing it with water. With such missiles, what a fight it would be. Elaborate descriptions of these weapons and missiles are found in the pages of the Mahabharata. Arjuna's magnificent weapons had been stockpiled in anticipation of an appropriate occasion in which they could be used. The war of Dharma, which was about to begin, was such an occasion. More often than not, war is due to adharma on both sides. But here, adharma was on one side only. What it means is, generally any war will be because of adharma on the part of the warring parties. But here it is distinctly on the side of Duryodhana only. When a warrior fights for dharma, all his weapons and skills become useful. They come alive and are not wasted. The warrior will not think he spent his life simply gathering weaponry that was never used. A warrior who does not have an opportunity to fight, having spent 50 or 60 years stockpiling weapons, may develop arthritis and wish he had studied geology instead. He will regret what he has done because he has no proof of his valor. Therefore, for a Kshatriya like Arjuna, it was a great day to prove himself. He was a prince who had been nursing a lot of hurts and injustices. For him, the D-Day had come. Having waited so long for this day, Arjuna was naturally one flame of fury. He ordered Krishna to position his chariot in such a way that he could see all those with whom he would be fighting. Arjuna could not have fought with ordinary soldiers. He had to determine which chieftains he must tackle, which ones were his equals. As a good driver, Krishna replied, "Yes, sir," and placed the chariot where Arjuna could see all sides. Arjuna's grief. When Arjuna looked around him, he collapsed, not out of fear, but in appreciation of the following fact, that the people he was going to destroy were the people whose life and company he would prefer to have. He thought, in their absence, my life will be empty. How can I destroy my own family, my kith and kin? These are the very people who are standing in front of me. How can I destroy all of these people? Most of the people Arjuna saw were citizens of this great kingdom. They had all been conscripted by Duryodhana, given a crash training course, and then brought to the battlefield. This was all visible because of their dress. They did not know how to button the shirts of their uniforms properly, and their walk was clumsy because of the heavy, unfamiliar military boots. They were obviously new recruits who had come to be fodder for Arjuna's arrows. Not only were there so many citizens in the opposite camp, but on his own side too, there were a lot of innocent people. Arjuna then understood that no one was going to be victorious in this war, because Arjuna and his brothers were committed to the moral order, dharma. They did what was to be done and avoided what was not to be done. A word once spoken was fulfilled, and their actions were always beyond question. Their life, therefore, was lived according to this dharma, whereas in the case of Duryodhana and his brothers, with the exception of Vikarna, it was quite the opposite. They followed a life which was questionable, adharmika. Therefore, the fight now was between dharma and adharma. This Vikarna is one of Duryodhana's clan. He is the younger brother of Duryodhana. He is the only one in the Kuru palace when Draupadi was being brought into the court. Okay, before that, Draupadi sent a question. Let me know whether I betted first, or after Yudhishthira lost, he betted me. I wanted to know. Then nobody answers, and Duryodhana says, you bring that Dasi to the court. People will answer here. And then Dushasana goes and drags Draupadi to the palace, into the arena where this game of dice went on. Then people will be silent. Bhishma, Drona, Krupa, everybody will be silent. Vidura will try to caution Dhritarashtra, but that falls on deaf ears. Then Vikarna gets up and says, the nobles here assembled, they owe a response to what Draupadi has asked. Her question must be answered, and it is improper to drag her into the middle of the nobles here and making an attempt to disrobe her. This is all incorrect. Then Vikarna will be silenced by, you know what? You know who? Karna. Karna says, hey, sit down. You are a little fellow. You do not know what is right, what is wrong. She was won over by Duryodhana. She is the Dasi of Duryodhana. You keep quiet. You be silent, you little fellow. That is what Karna talks to Vikarna. And incidentally, this Vikarna this Vikarna, before before the eyes of all the great people, he protests, saying this is wrong. What is being done is wrong, and this is going to ruin the family. I protest, etc. But that also falls on deaf ears. That fellow Vikarna. There is another fellow, another son of Dhritarashtra. He is not part of the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra with Duryodhana as the head. He is the son of a Vaishya woman. That son's name is Yuyutsu. That Yuyutsu, before the war has started, Yudhishthira has his armies. Anybody interested in joining Duryodhana's side, please welcome, you go away. And the request from Duryodhana's side, anybody willing to join my ranks, you are welcome. Then this Yuyutsu comes and joins Yudhishthira's clan. And he is the only one of Dhritarashtra's sons who was spared. He lives the war. Okay, he lives after the war. And he is the one who will protect Parikshit when he was anointed as a king. Yuyutsu, son of Dhritarashtra and a Vaishya woman. Duryodhana and his brothers, with the exception of Vikarna.
Doesn't Vikarna also survive the war?
Vikarna, no, I don't think so. I think Yuyutsu does. Vikarna is part of the 100 killed by, most of them, about 85 killed by Bhima. The others are killed by Arjuna and the rest of the Pandavas. Okay? Yuyutsu comes. Vikarna, I think, stays behind. Because he's a dharmic fellow. And the dharma dictates that he does not change sides. All that he recognizes. Okay, the battle is also sometimes interpreted as representing a conflict within the physical body. The body having been brought into being by a certain type of dharma, good actions. In this interpretation, the body is called dharma kshetra. Kshetra meaning place. What is kshetra? Bhagavan said, what is kshetra? Does anybody remember the verse?
Kshetra is the body, is the physical body.
Idam shariram kaunte
Kshetra
vidhiyate etadyo vetitam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidaha. The knowledge of right and wrong is universal.
Nana, I will take on from here, Nana.
Yeah, you have a problem of throat.
No, I have no problem. I'm perfectly okay.
Go ahead.
Knowledge of right and wrong is universal. If the physical body is considered a dharma kshetra, then Kurukshetra is your own mind, in which there are conflicts between dharma and adharma. What is to be done and what is not to be done. What is proper and not proper. These things you already know, of course, because you have a certain innate sense about them. No one can plead ignorance of what is right and wrong. This knowledge is universal. What do we mean by universal knowledge? All monkeys, for example, born to live on treetops, need to know something about the law of gravity, and they do. If you were to observe the mother monkey, you would see that she has no concern about whether there is a baby holding on to her or not as she jumps from tree to tree. The baby monkey, however, holds on to its mother's bosom for its dear life. It is definitely afraid of falling, whereas the mother is not. She just keeps leaping from one branch to another while her baby holds on tight. Suppose, however, the baby monkey had to undergo some education to know that there is a law of gravity operating, that it must hold on tightly in order not to fall, and that if it did fall, it would be injured or it would die. If all of these things had to be taught to monkeys, many of them would die for want of education, and the species itself would sooner or later become extinct. Fortunately, every baby monkey, without being educated, seems to know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Without going to Harvard or Cornell, without joining the moral majority, it knows very well that I will fall if I let go of my mother. That I will fall is one piece of truth, and if I fall, I may hurt myself. The second piece of truth the monkey seems to know. The third piece of truth is to fall and get hurt or be killed is not good for me or for my species. Instinctively, then, the monkey knows all this. Since monkeys are made to live on treetops, the minimum knowledge every monkey must have in order to survive is to know, I will fall, objects come down. I will be the victim if I do not hold on to the other branch when I leap. This knowledge must be given to monkeys along with the creation. Only then is there any hope of a monkey living its life on the treetops. Such knowledge is instinctive and is what we call the creation. If that knowledge is not given to a monkey and it has to be educated in order to know how to survive, then I would say that there is a defect in the creation. Similarly, as a human being, I am born with the faculty of choice. Unlike a monkey, however, I can choose to live on treetops on the 20th floor of a building in Manhattan or in a cottage on some river bank. I can choose to go to Alaska and keep only my nose out, or I can live in the tropics. Because I have the faculty of choice, I can choose my course of action. I can choose various ends and various means to achieve those ends. That human beings seek securities and pleasures is a common fact that we have already analyzed. And in seeking these ends, they have to follow certain means to achieve them. More often than not, upon analysis, you will find that the problems lie only in the means and not in the ends. For example, the desire for money and end is not a sin. In fact, if you seek money, Lord Vishnu will be very happy about it, knowing that his wife Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, is so popular. The security that money represents is a natural need perceived by all humans. Seeking security is natural. People seek different forms of security. In itself, this seeking is neither good nor bad, only natural. The means alone is what is important here. If I am controlled by a set of instincts, then I need not think about whether the means I employ is right or wrong. If you live in India and leave a couple of bananas on the windowsill and a monkey comes along and takes them away, you cannot say the monkey is a thief. At the most, all that you can say is that you were careless. When we know there are monkeys around, we have to keep certain things away from them. Whatever a monkey does, that action cannot be labeled as wrong because it is controlled by its own instincts. Thus, the monkey is always right and is not responsible for what it does. This is what we mean by svabhava, one's own nature. Only when there is a choice is there right and wrong. Wherever choice is involved, you cannot avoid the concept of right and wrong. There can be proper choice and improper choice. Now, if this knowledge of what is proper and improper is to be given to you by an educational institution, it will definitely be denied to a lot of people, thereby making it possible for them to destroy themselves. Just as the monkey is given an instinctual knowledge of gravitation for its survival, so too a human being is given a common sense knowledge
with reference to what is good and not good for him or her. No institution is required to teach such knowledge. That I should not get hurt, for example, is a piece of knowledge. A mother and father need not teach this common sense knowledge to their child because the child already knows it. Thus, when I know I should not get hurt, I also understand that, like me, everyone else is aware of this fact. I also know exactly what is expected of me by others. You do not expect me to hurt you, just as I do not expect you to hurt me. No one needs to be taught this knowledge. Because I have to choose, this knowledge is not left to education. It must be known to me. When I choose a means of action or perform an action, I must necessarily see whether it will hurt me or hurt anyone else or anything else. Knowledge of this moral order is what we mean when we say knowledge is born of common sense. A moral order is known to us. That you do not want to be robbed and that no one else wants to be robbed is very well known. You do not want to be cheated or deceived, nor does anyone else want to be cheated or deceived by you. You do not want to be the target of anyone's anger, hatred, or jealousy. And you know very well that no one wants to be the target of yours. And to put it positively, you want others to sympathize with you, to understand you, and others also want you to understand them. You want others to help you when you are in trouble, and others also want your help when they are in trouble. There are many values involved in a moral order. Non-injury, ahimsa, the absence of deception, speaking the truth, compassion, sharing, the absence of jealousy, the absence of hatred, and so on, all of which are connected to each other. With reference to the behavior of others, we are very clear. Thus, this particular knowledge is with all of us and is gathered by common sense. No education is necessary to know what is right and wrong. Duryodhana had this knowledge, and so did the Pandavas. However, problems arise because of our priorities, which is why we settle for compromises. So all these are the set of human values, isn't it, Nana? And the Swabhava is living human values. That is,
Swabhava is what you have acquired through your Purva Janmas. Purva Janma, the Samskara Janita Bhava, is Swabhava. Swasya Bhavaha Swabhava. Your own attitudes, set of attitudes you have acquired because of the previous actions you have carried out.
because earlier Swamiji mentioned the monkey Swabhava is to take bananas wherever they are kept.
But that, you see, what is mentioned is, it is natural. That Swabhava means it is kind of natural for it. While on this, I don't know whether you have known this fact. The turtles on the beaches near the seas, the turtles lay eggs in the sand. Okay, and when the eggs hatch, you know what the little baby turtles do?
They have a journey to make towards the water.
They simply quickly go towards the ocean. That is the Swabhava. Whereas what Swamiji mentioned as the Swabhava of the monkey, it is kind of natural for it. Whereas this baby turtle, it is the survival instinct, which they have acquired maybe in the Purva Janma. We don't know. We don't know.
So it is not right to say these human values are not our Swabhava.
Human values are a common sense generated.
Okay.
They are all common sense generated. If I know that if you land on my toe, with your military shoes and things like that, I'll get hurt. Then I also directly know that I should not stand on your toes at all, with shoes or without shoes. It is a reciprocal bhavana that is born out of common sense.
Common sense. Okay.
Common sense. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Universal cultural and individual values. Values can be universal, cultural, and individual. In the West, for instance, there are a lot of individual likes and dislikes. In fact, children are taught to develop them at a very young age. The mother asks, "What do you want on your toast? Do you want honey or brown sugar?" From childhood on, you are asked, "What do you want? This or that?" In this way, you have been taught to exercise your faculty of choice. In India, this is not done. You are offered tea with milk and sugar already in it. There is no choice in the matter. Whereas in the West, you are not only asked what you would like in it, but whether you would like tea, coffee, or something else. Our choices are all based on personal likes and dislikes, which we are not concerned with here. We are concerned with the fact that there is a common structure, a universal structure, wherein no one wants to be robbed, for example. Whether the person is a tribesman living in a remote desert or an urbanite living in a sophisticated society, it is the same. A person may be walking along in a street in Delhi, or a person may be walking in a forest, but both of them do not want to get hurt or robbed. No one says, because New York City is such a wonderful city, I want to get mugged there. No one wants to get mugged anywhere. There is therefore a structure that we all commonly sense, a structure which is already there. This universal structure that is already there is a moral structure. It comes up in the Gita itself later on, and I will talk about it more then. The word dharma refers to this structure, this order, which includes the ecological order. This dharma is known to me, to you, and everybody else. Money, power, name, and influence are not universal values. You may seek money as a form of security and be prepared to destroy your name for it. There will also be another person who is ready to give up his life, his or her money for the sake of power, name, or influence. Although name, influence, money, and power are generally sought after, they are not universals. Values are not absolute. Sympathy, love, and compassion, on the other hand, are universal values, which does not mean that they are absolute. Values are never absolute. They are always relative, even though they may be universal. The point is that one should not go against the universal values while pursuing individual or cultural values. For example, as long as your pursuit of money conforms to the universal values, you are living a life of dharma. Whereas if your pursuit, whether for money, power, or pleasure, comes into conflict with the universal values, then there is adharma. Can you just explain this little bit here, Nana? See,
Yeah.
as long as you're living a life of dharma, whereas if your pursuit, whether for money, power, or pleasure, comes into conflict with the universal values, then there is adharma. Yeah, I got
Correct.
it. Like,
You got it.
yeah. Unfair means you want to make money, power, etc. That becomes adharma.
Yeah, very right.
The Pandavas also sought money, power, and pleasure, but they tried to conform to the dharma at the same time. Duryodhana, on the other hand, represents a life of adharma, wherein power becomes so important that its pursuit comes into conflict with the order dharma. For such people, however, this is not a problem because they do not think of it in these terms. Therefore, for them, the means can be anything as long as the end is achieved. To say for the sake of power I can do anything is not due to ignorance, really speaking. There is some ignorance involved, as we shall see later, but the ignorance is not of the universal values. Duryodhana definitely knew that he did not want to be cheated and that the Pandavas did not want to be cheated either. But power was so important to him that he did not mind cheating or destroying anyone, legitimately or illegitimately, who stood in his way. He simply did not think about the legitimacy or illegitimacy of what he was doing. Your understanding of the laws reflected in your choice of the means, if there are such laws, is what is meant by inner maturity. When I choose a means which is not proper for the sake of money, I go against the order dharma for the sake of money, because I do not understand what I lose. I only know what I gain, money, which is very important to me. The difference between having the money and not having it is very clear to me. One person may tell a lie for the sake of $5,000, while another person may tell a lie for $100,000 or for any amount in between, but not for $5,000. There may also be those who would tell a lie for as little as $1. Everyone seems to have a price. The value of a value. We even try to bribe the Lord in order to get to heaven. We are always ready to compromise if we can get something that is valuable enough to us. If a man sees the difference between having $5,000 and not having it, he may even deceive a friend who has offered to give him 20% over and above the value of the house he bought and renovated. All he has to do is to jack the price up by the amount of money that is so important to him. This man knows that the money can take him to Hawaii. It will definitely give him a good vacation somewhere. Thus, to have this $5,000 will definitely make a difference in his life. Therefore, he is ready to compromise. Suppose you tell someone you should not tell a lie, and the person, being very pragmatic, questions you, "What do I lose if I tell a lie?" What will you say? Or if your child asks, "Dad, if I can get some money so that we can have some more things, why should I not tell a lie?" Generally, you will say that telling a lie is wrong, which is another way of saying, don't do it. The general message the child gains is that what is wrong is what I should not do. But this does not explain anything. Therefore, the child will come back asking, "Why is it wrong?" "Well, because it's not right," you say. Why is it not right? "Everybody else does it," the child argues, "and those who lie get money. I don't get it because I don't tell a lie. But if I tell a lie, I will get it. Why should I not tell a lie then?" A father who is little more intelligent will say, "You see, my child, you will be detected." Now the whole question becomes, is it all right to tell a lie if I do not get caught? Someone might say, "So what? Even if I get caught, so what?" "You will lose your credibility," the person is told. But if the person does not care about his or her credibility or anything else, then where is the problem? "You will not be eligible for a credit card," may be your response, to which the person replies, "That is why I steal them. That way I get 5 cards at the same time." This line of argument is of course foolish and should not be pursued. What one should appreciate is this: if there is a universal value and I go against that value, I must lose something. But my focus is on the gain that results from such an action. Perhaps I gain money, which makes a difference to me because I see the value of it. But what do I lose? Since I do not care for credibility, I do not see that I lose anything. Compromise and moral order. If you can see the immensity of the loss with reference to compromises made to gain such things as money, power, etc., you are mature. You will not go for the bargain because you see it as a bad bargain. You should see that what you lose is more than what you gain, which has nothing to do with the moral majority. If there is a universal structure, and there is, then what I lose must definitely be much more than what I gain. Therefore, the education needed for maturity is to know what I lose. Suppose I say you will go to hell and you do not accept the idea of hell, then that is the end of that. You will simply say, you go to your hell if there is one. I am not going because I do not accept a hell. How do we know there is a hell other than where we are now? Hell is simply a belief. Suppose it is wrong. The threat of hell is certainly not a very convincing argument for telling the truth. Perhaps I do not believe in hell or do not care if there is a hell. If there is a hell, I will tackle it when I get there. It is not my problem right now. All that I want to do is get out of the hot water I am in right now. I will deal with the heat in hell later. This is a different thing. I am in hot water right here and now, and $5,000 will make a difference. However, if the person knows that he will be the loser by gaining this $5,000, he may not compromise for the sake of that money. If I were to ask him, why do you want this $5,000? And he would say, because I can then buy certain things. Then I ask, why do you want those things? And he replies, so that I can be happier, more secure. But if I were to show him that in the process of getting this $5,000, he becomes incapable of being happy, and hence the bargain is a bad one, then he will not compromise. Now he understands the price he may have to pay for the compromise. This is how one understands the value of a value. No one wants money for money's sake. If that were the case, a cashier's job would be good enough because by just feeling money, you would be happy. You want money for your sake so that you can be happy. Money is very interesting. Without it, certain things cannot happen. But there is a limit to what money can offer. It can buy a book, but it can never make you read unless the author offers you $1,000 to read it. Then, of course, you will read it overnight. But even then, the money cannot make you understand what the book says. For that, you require something else, something other than money. Money can buy music, but it can never make you understand music. You can hire the best musician to sing for you, but the money you pay to the musician cannot stop you from falling asleep during the performance, unless a can provide situations. That is all it can do. Just give me a second. Yeah. Money can, that's fine. And money does do that, which nothing else can, a point to be remembered. But then the enjoyment is for the person. You are the one who is to enjoy the music. If I lose the enjoyer in the process of acquiring the money that will provide the opportunities for me to enjoy, then it is a bad bargain. Therefore, the whole education or inner maturity of a human being is not in knowing what is right and wrong, which we all know, but in knowing what I lose when I do the wrong thing. This I should know. What will I lose? How much will I lose? If I know this very well, it is not possible for me to go for the bargain. This is what is to be understood here. When you tell a lie, you are speaking, and therefore you are a doer, a performer, an actor. You are doing the action of speaking, and as the actor, when you tell a lie, you are saying something that is not true to what you think. Therefore, the thinker is one and the actor is quite another. I will just read this again. When you tell a lie, you are speaking, and therefore you are a doer, a performer, an actor. You are doing the action of speaking, and as the actor, when you tell a lie, you are saying something that is not true to what you think. Therefore, the thinker is one and the actor is quite another. You know one thing, and by the time it comes out of your mouth, it is entirely different because what you say and what you think are not the same. This means there is already a split in you. As a speaker and a doer who's telling a lie, I behave in such a way that I create a split in myself, like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The thinker and doer split. Once I create a split in myself, then as a doer, I am different from the one who knows, who thinks. If this split has taken place, do you think that you can succeed in life? Even with money or whatever else, you cannot, because the person you is already split. As a thinker, I am entirely different from the performer, the one who does things, the doer. There is only one I. And when I see myself as a split person, then I cannot enjoy what money buys. I will be worried all the time. You cannot do a wrong thing without a conflict, and every conflict naturally creates a split in you. The conflict itself is the split, and the split creates conflict. The more conflict there is, the more split the person is. This is not a conflict of choice. It is a conflict between me, the knower, and me, the doer. The split is in the very personality, the very person, so that the mind is unable to enjoy the pleasures that money has bought. If a person already has a split between what he or she thinks and does, how can there be enjoyment of anything, whether it be food or a beautiful house? Being in conflict, the person is also potentially moody. You have to determine whether or not someone is in a good mood before you can talk to the person, and good moods come only occasionally. When you say what you have to say, the person may feel so bombarded that he or she gets into yet another bad mood. Thus, the person is nothing but mood, potential mood, all due to split, the conflict between the thinker and the doer. By analyzing such situations, we find that this split, which is the basis of all psychological problems, has something to do with our rubbing against the law of dharma. Just look at yourself. When you are in conformity with the order, there is always freedom. There is harmony, joy, and a certain composure. Whereas when you rub against the order, you get rubbed in the process. No one can rub against something without getting rubbed. If you rub against a rough bark of a tree with your bare body for 5 minutes, you will see who gets rubbed. And this knowledge will stay with you for at least 10 days. That you never rub against anything without getting rubbed in the process needs to be well understood. For every gain, we need to know the loss. Having understood that we cannot rub against the moral order without being rubbed in the process, it takes... Yes, Nana.
Ramana,
Yes, Nana.
do we stop here? This is another page heading. We just have
Yeah.
another half a minute.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
I will just do this part because it is in a train. It is the flow of thought is all about what we lose. And then from the next para, we'll start from tomorrow. Huh?
Yeah, you seem to have some problem with the throat. Shall I take over?
That's fine, and I can continue, no
Okay.
problem. My
Okay.
voice is clear to everyone?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
For every gain, we need to know the laws. Having understood that we cannot rub against the moral order without being rubbed in the process, it takes even more understanding to know exactly how much we lose by performing certain actions. It becomes a matter of self-esteem. What kind of self-esteem can there be when a division has been created between the thinker and the doer? Sooner than later, you will conclude that you are worthless. This process can be seen when you make a very simple resolution, such as, tomorrow I'm going to get up early in the morning at 6 o'clock and I'm going to meditate for half an hour. You have decided that to begin the day with some kind of meditation is good, and this is what you want to do. Therefore, you are going to get up half an hour earlier than usual and meditate. Whose decision is this? It is not someone else's, it is yours. You even set your alarm clock to ring at 6 o'clock, and it does. In fact, it never stops. It goes on beeping, beeping, beeping. Then what do? Annoyed, you turn the alarm off and go back to sleep. Do you know why? Because the one who made the decision last night to get up half an hour earlier did not consult the one who had to wake up the next morning. This is like a husband making a decision to go on a weekend family trip without informing or consulting his wife. The decision to wake up earlier was made by someone who thinks and figures things out, whereas I am the one who has to get up. Therefore, you had better consult me before you decide anything. Between husband and wife, there can be some consultation. But when I am thinking that I will get up a half an hour earlier, the waker is not there to be consulted. Here is a real problem because the waker is also me. While this plight looks very simple, it is actually a very complex issue. The split between the one who thinks and knows and the one who does is a very detrimental split, one that eventually and naturally leads to self-condemnation. If you tell me to do something and I decide not to do it, it is quite different from when I tell myself to do something and I cannot do it. Once, twice, or thrice is not a problem. But when I cannot conform to my own decisions more times than not, what self-esteem will I have? If it happens only once, I can always justify not having done something. But if I do it consistently, then I cannot have any self-esteem. And without self-esteem, no one can really help me. Even the Lord cannot boost me up because intrinsically I have a problem. Therefore, I am the loser. If I'm together as a person, I can enjoy sports and a variety of other situations that do not cost money. I can even enjoy myself, which also does not cost money. Whereas, if in the process of gaining money, I lose myself, the transaction is definitely a bad one, bad bargain. To know this about myself is education. It is growing up. Who then can afford not to have such knowledge? Because I have a faculty of choice, I must necessarily exercise that choice. I must know the norms which are the basis upon which I choose. These norms are known to us by our own common sense. The only education needed with regard to them is an understanding of what I lose when I gain something. In a so-called gain, I should be able to see how much I lose. If I do not lose,
then the gain is truly a gain and is worthwhile. Whereas if I lose, the gain is not worthwhile. Therefore, the means that one follows in gaining one's ends are very important. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Yeah. Good. Make a note of the page number 77 and the significance of battle
in the Gita. Right.
Gita. Okay.
Right.
Good. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, everybody.
Hari Om, Nanaji.
Nanaji.